Okay, period. Okay, I'm live. And because I just did this for no other choice, that bed was just laid in, and I just watched. I just okay. Because there's just no one else to speak to about these things. Not in the sense that I don't have friends who enjoy film who would not enjoy long, lengthy discussions about them. This is just something that feels so hyper specifically personal that it's just one of those things, again, with no other choice, that like without having to explain and justify myself within the context of a conversation with somebody, that I'm not like picking up on their facial cues and having to backtrack and go back and be like, no, 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 no. Actually, this is why. But I don't want to do that. I just need to get exactly what I'm thinking about this specific fucking movie out of my head. I'm supposed to go on a first date. I need to get ready for that. My first date is at 6:30, and I'm picking them up at 6:30. It is currently 5:59. I need to get all of this out before this date because I just it like it needs to be spoken. First of all, I want to show you guys the opening fucking line, and fuck you, AI. We're not gonna do your fucking version. We'll go to the IMDb version, okay? First line, Peter Gordon, fucking bad thing that we just get glimpses of in the beginning, and then we get the whole fucking show. Blam. Holy shit. Peter Gordon, when my father passed, I wanted nothing more than my mother's happiness. For what kind of man would I be if I did not help my mother? If I did not save her? For I was gonna like put this movie on in the background, do some chores. Like I heard Girl on Film. Shout out to you, Diva. Never gonna see this. Shout out to you, Girl on Film, because you were talking about like female revenge stories and like brought this up not necessarily through the perspective of this is a female, specifically female, like women led, and female, just a women's revenge story. But this was in the context of a femme person, and I was like, damn, this maybe sounds like something I would like I need to clock into. And again, I have to literally get ready for this date. Like, well, I just need to change clothes, okay? Like, I did most of everything. Change, put some product in my hair, put on some cologne. You know what? And we'll do that while I fucking speak because I have the power to do so. Where are you going? No one's watching this. Except for hopefully in the future, coming back. Except for hopefully in the future, like I don't know. Like there's just something so powerful about whatever documenting exactly how I feel. I think this is Bay 19. This is Labdanum, and of course the last one that I wanted, which is Tenoir. This sample from the lava. Okay. Holy shit. So I just want to start off with sitting in the feeling of that first line of this movie, right? That first line being, when my father passed, I wanted nothing more than my mother's happiness. For what kind of man would I be if I did not help my mother, if I did not save her? I heard that first line. I was like, okay, let me go start doing some dishes. Like, let me go start like putting stuff away. I heard that first line, full stop the fucking movie, and I went, bitch, do all your fucking chores, rush. Do all your fucking chores, and then come back, sit down, and fully enjoy this. And maybe I took a little something extra because I can, because I'm an adult, because I can. But I really knew that this was a movie I really needed to like open my third eye to, like literally open a chakra, like let all of my body chakras open and watch. It is a hard watch in the sense that like as the first act is our introduction to the characters, as most first acts are, right? But I think in regards to this specific first act, in regards to this introduction of characters, you kind of just don't necessarily know where we're going. And I think I have a very different perspective about this movie because I heard Girl on Film talk about it and spoil it for me, pretty much. Um, so I came into this movie, I guess, knowing the structure of the story, knowing where we're gonna go, exactly where we're gonna go, just now being this observer of like how are we gonna get there. I think I might have had a different perspective, especially because of my background and like what I want to talk to you about. Again, I am running low on time. Okay. I'm running low on time, but I told somebody that I was going to be watching a movie. So I might just be like, oh my God, sorry, the movie, like, I had to pause it in. Blah, 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 blah. It's not like too set, whatever. It's so like, girl, like, it's a first date. Like, it was never that fucking serious type shit. I that first line. I keep like circling around it. That first fucking line, specifically as a queer person watching this and taking that in. I don't know if this is the same experience that other queer people have had, but I, as somebody who, look at my fucking nails, am I like to say that I don't exist on the mask spectrum and I don't exist on the like I'm not mask, I'm not femme. Like that's literally my grinder fucking like tagline. I'm not mask, I'm not femme. I'm a third more sinister option. Um I think through the perspective of my own coming of age myself. And I think that's what I really enjoyed about this movie is that weirdly enough, it did feel like a queer coming of age story in regards to, and this is, I, I cannot pull up a quote. Okay, I'm rushing. Okay, and maybe I should have wrote a whole script and like a whole dissertation and then fucking presented it. I don't fucking know. That's just not my fucking tea. That's not my vibe right now. Girl on Film said something along the lines of, "There's something patient and quiet about queer revenge or queer, like it's this." And I'm reading this book from my therapist, The Velvet Rage, that talks specifically about gay rage. And through the context of both, in that this quiet spite that exists within queer people when they grow up, if they are, because not every single queer person, and I really like, I guess I want to put that there. Not every single queer person grows up with adversity. I know that we all like to think that, because it is a very, very common thing. But I think my perspective is different because I grew up in San Francisco. I was a very fortunate Asian, like first generation person to grow up in San Francisco as a queer person because that helped my parents already come to terms with my identity in a way that their rejection of it when I was younger, obviously I feel that rattled in my bones. Like that is something I can't really shake. But it's also not an outward rejection that happened when I came out. Um, and I know as we continue to develop as a society, it is just going to become the norm. And so I think there exists two truths. One, that a lot of queer people do face that level of adversity or that fear of rejection or that understanding that they are apart from just societal norms, right? And so there does build a sense of shame, a sense of rage. But also, I think we are in a place in our society, hopefully, obviously, things feel like they're getting pulled back in this current moment. But hopefully, as we continue to develop as a society, I'm having hope that we don't fully backtrack, but that we get to a place where queerness isn't necessarily something that young people feel averse to, that it is just a part of their identity and not in the exploration phase, but in a this is just a simple truth. I hope that that exists in the future. I think I'm fortunate enough to exist somewhere in the middle of so much rejection and also so much acceptance, given my also intersectionality. That plays a big fucking role in whatever, right? But in this book and within the movie, you see this spite that gets built because there is because there is this rejection of, and we don't even know if the main character is queer. He just has more effeminate qualities to him in the context of putting him next to all of these like cowboys, these like burly, like built, like yeehaw ass men. And Girl on Film really put into such a great perspective for me coming into this whole entire viewing experience. I'm talking so much with my hands right now, but in this viewing experience, because she was right, like Western imagery is the backdrop for so many revenge stories. And so to get one that is rooted in not queerness, in male femininity, not that there is like a definition for femininity, but this, I guess, within the culture, this left of center, right? Because I don't, and this is something that like the reason why I'm like I have to hop on I have to hop on this, like I have to speak about it, like my time is running up, like Girl the Rabbit, like the clock. All of this to say, this presentation of when you are watching the character, if you don't know how the story is going to end, you're like, oh my God, he treated you like shit throughout the first part of the fucking movie. You get to like more parts and you see this like openness that they have with each other. One, because is it queer? Like, you know, like there's some like undertones and some imagery and honestly overt messaging at some points um of this presentation of queerness and then the rejection of it and like the driver of the rejection throughout the whole entire film, like who that person is and how they affect everybody around them to create this culture for this one person. And there's more for me to be said. This is just gonna be part one. I needed to get all of my thoughts that I was fresh off that shit out, and then I'm gonna go on this date, and then I'm gonna come back because there's also so many other different things that I could talk about within this movie that don't necessarily exist in the topic of queerness, but it's if you aren't, and I feel like I rated this like a 5. Like this honestly is a little bit of a groundbreaking movie for me. In the same way that Straight Up by uh, James Sweeney was. It is this presentation of something that like is an internal struggle that I had within myself that I didn't necessarily know I was going to be seeing on screen because we just didn't get those as we get more women, as we get more queer people, as we get more stories that aren't written by cis het white males. We are now in this amazing exploration phase of film and conversation, more foreign films, like all of these things existing in the zeitgeist. This movie, I feel like would have just went over my head if I saw it on Netflix. I was like, girl, I don't know if I want to watch. I don't be doing all that. But thank you to Girl on Film for speaking about it. I need to fucking. I'm gonna be. I'm just gonna be like, hey, running 15 minutes. I'm literally texting running 15 minutes behind. Wrapped up the movie. Okay. Okay. That gives me some more time because I can easily get changed. Like, I don't need to put on a whole fucking fanfare or whatever. Okay. Circling back to this fucking movie. And this like queer one, again, rage that I've been seeing. And it's a silent queer rage. In this book, specifically, it explores queer rage and this internalization of it in the lens of a lot of things. But what I'm seeing from this is, and what I'm, I guess, drawing the connection to is this internal dialogue that you have with yourself as a queer person. One, when you are rejected, when you face that sense of rejection, especially when it comes to the people you love or the people that you might not necessarily be people you love, but people you can't exist outside of. Whereas when in our adult lives or in a lot of different, or like just as adults, like if you are a straight person, like you have never said, maybe you have, but like there is a sense of rejection that many queer people feel, again, not all, but many, in regards to the people that they can't escape, your family, your professors, like the people that surround you that you have to learn how to coexist with, despite full well knowing their rejection of you. And it is this internalization that a lot of queer people can have in regards to succeeding despite or in spite of. And so it is, and it's presented so well in the movie, this I need to learn how to coexist with you. And so I'm going to come off like I am unassuming, like I am not a threat, like I'm just going to, this is how you perceive me, I'm going to use that to my strength. Um, and throughout the movie, there is this sense of uncomfortability that at least I felt because I'm like, you knew that this man said some fucking miserable things about you. You see how he's affecting your mother. How are you, you know? But then we get to the ending and the resolution to this story, and you fully understand that it is this brooding, quiet, unbelievably calculated, intelligent way of sticking it to the people that rejected you. And this film takes it into the extreme ends of, murder. But in all reality, at least the way that I feel, is this could really be seen as like a reflection of when queer people, when they have to move out of their homes, when they're kicked out of their homes. And yes, so many of our community do end up homeless, do end up struggling with addiction, do end up with so many other things. But there are also so many stories of people who get rejected in the worst way. And then you see them completely be successful. And this hunger for success because they need to now succeed despite all of the things that are in front of them. And this book continues that conversation in regards to the exploration of how damaging it can be for you. But that's not what the conversation this movie is having. This movie is just presenting what queer and what queer rage can really look like. And again, we don't get confirmation that this character is ever actually gay, right? But you can't help but, if you are somebody who, like me, is queer, and isn't traditionally masculine, but at the same time isn't super feminine, it's this place that you exist in that like feels like, oh my God, there is no like, not necessarily there's no definition, but like there is not one identity that I can tag myself onto. I'm not fully masculine. I'm not fully femme. My interests, the way that I present myself, like, yes, I might like a silky blast, but also I'm cutting up a rabbit and I'm marking all that down, which in and of itself is, at least the way that society has framed, is a masculine thing, right? Um, and I'm talking about all these things in regards to societal norms, not my own beliefs. But I think it's important that despite my own beliefs, I have to take the lens of a societal perspective when you consume media, because then if you don't and you choose to reject it, you lose so much of the messaging and you lose so much of the nuance of what a film is trying to present. It is so easy to kind of just see this film and feel like it was too slow. It didn't necessarily like, it was almost Shakespearean in that there were 5 acts, but like it doesn't follow a very strict structure. At times it can get really like, it feels like, how do I say this? Like at times you don't necessarily know why things are being presented the way that they are. And if you don't, I guess, like take the societal lens perspective to help understand how we reach the resolution to the film, it can be easy to just kind of write this off. But I think it's so much more important to see that, like, and again, this is coming from the context of somebody who, for so much of my life, I thought that I was inherently feminine. When people identified me as gay before I even knew if I had an inkling towards men, when I had mostly female friends, when I had like certain interests, like I thought inherently that made me feminine. And I had almost this rejection of masculinity because I felt like it rejected me. And it wasn't until I was in college, and I truly cannot remember who said it, but I know how deeply it impacted me, that somebody helped shift my mindset of like, no, Kevin, you are actually really masculine. I think it might have been my like really close friend Kelly at the time, of you hold the door open for everybody, you make sure you always like stand outside before everybody is like, gets into their apartment. When we're on the sidewalk, like you position yourself in a certain way. You When we're out, like you present yourself a certain way so that like other people aren't infringing in our group, even to the point where like I'm out with my friends and like I didn't realize that like other people are seeing us as a couple because I inherently thought masculinity rejected me. And so I in turn felt like I needed to reject it. But it wasn't until I was in college that I came to the understanding that like, no, I do have a lot of masculine qualities about me. Not to say that I also don't have a lot of feminine qualities about me. And so all roads lead back to when I like my grinder like profile, right? And like recently I've had a lot of people ask me, are you masc? Are you femme? Like that's just like the conversation that a lot of queer people have when they're not secure in their masculinity. It's this new wave of masculinity that I feel, in that because I am so secure in my own, I'm able to put on a skirt, put on makeup, put on like have nails done, blah, 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 blah. But there's a security that I feel within my own masculinity that allows me to explore different avenues and still feel inherently masculine. And it's not that you should want to feel inherently masculine. I think that for a long time I rejected it because again, I thought it rejected me. And so all of that to say, all roads lead back to first the first line of the movie. This movie exploring masculinity and femininity within a man, or within, again, like don't know that character's identity. We don't ever really get to learn that. We don't His sexuality isn't actually the one that's being explored on screen. We actually get more of that story from the, I don't want to say antagonist of the film, but it has to be labeled that way. The driver of the plot that isn't the protagonist that is presenting the conflict, right? But I don't want to label him as like evil because this is 1925. This is just what is done. And this film takes so much careful detail in exploring not only the antagonist's views, the way that he speaks, the way that he is outwardly rejecting femininity, but takes careful detail of presenting this soft side that without it, I think the film would have went in a very different direction for me and the way that I feel about it. But it took so much care in presenting this person's soft, more quote unquote feminine side that only gets explored through fits of rage, in quiet solitude, in the safe space that they have to create for themselves. I'm like checking the time. I'm like, girl, I'm running 15 minutes late. And like, they didn't respond to me. And I'm literally like, girl, like, but I do really want to wrap this up so I can go on this date. But it within all roads again leading back to the first line. And it's what I've had to feel for myself. It's this redefinition of masculinity because I thought that masculinity was what the cowboys were in this movie. Super burly, super buff, super but like at the same time, like they're also a little fruity, like when they're naked and they're splashing around in the creek together and like just laying down naked with each other, like there is this comfortability that like I never had around other men. And that's also why I thought that masculinity rejected me, was because I didn't feel that sense of camaraderie in the locker room, in all of those things. Like I always felt so inherently uncomfortable in those spaces. And so to see and know that there is this version of masculinity that men feel when they don't, I mean, like some of them might feel it, but might reject it, but like there isn't an acceptance of queerness, that I thought that that's what masculinity was like. You're literally a cowboy on a steel horse I ride type shit. And the first line of this movie being, and again, I want to read it again, of when my father passed, I wanted nothing more than my mother's happiness. For what kind of man would I be if I did not help my mother, if I did not save her? It is so refreshing to see the main character, or like the Peter, that's his name. Peter in this movie, you don't see him struggle with his softer side, with his more feminine side. You see him actively explore it. You see, even in face of rejection from masculinity, this unabashed exploration of his own soft side, when literally being called a slur, but at the same time, his masculine side that is rooted in his pursuit of wanting to be a surgeon, of this gore. Um, and I think it's because that is his driving, like as a character. If I was given like the script, that is my motivation. And that is what is going to be my through line throughout the whole movie. What kind of man would I be if I did not protect my mother? And in talking about how my friend reshaped masculinity for me, the way that I protect my friends, the way that I have not necessarily ownership, I don't want to say that, but it's almost like this sense of, I mean, the sense of like, and I hate to put it in that way, but like the savior complex that a lot of men feel around women. But not just that, but like the chivalrous aspects of myself that like wants to hold doors open for people. Like I never want anybody to like hold the door open for me. I want to hold the door open for everybody. I want to pay for everyone's meal. Like I want to, within the context of societal's like what a man should be doing when they're in a relationship with a woman. Those are qualities that I inherently take upon myself within my own family dynamic. When my father was gone for a lot of the time, I assumed so much of the masculine role of making sure that my brother was taken care of. Not necessarily like he was taken care of, but like I would be tutoring him, like I would be sitting down with him, like I took on a parental figure that was both masculine and feminine, which you see this presentation of within the character of Peter, that has to take care of his mother, the same way that it felt like I needed to take care of my mother when my father was absent, and that shapes me as a man, right? Like I even though my pronouns are he, they, like I do also identify as a man, the he part of the he, they. I didn't realize that all those qualities that I had within myself that I developed in tandem with my queerness, that shape who I am when I want to make sure that everyone like is driven, like I want to make sure everyone is safe, like the rave dad, like I'm like all these things that I assumed before feeling or understanding that, yes, I am masculine, that I'm seeing this exploration within this film of that is Peter's driving force. He might be being called slurs. His masculinity might be a question for everybody else, but this driving force within him, what kind of man would I be if I did not help my mother, if I did not save her? That allows him to be comfortable in his masculinity. And that's what allowed me to be comfortable in my masculinity in regards to seeing myself not necessarily in relation to just other men, which I was doing for so long, which the movie does. You see Peter in this crazy juxtaposition with all these burly men when he's on the horse and they're teaching him how to ride, and it's his third week and they're all making fun of him, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, this want to protect him, this want to like it's qualities that you see within masculine people. Like those are all traits that Peter has in the ways that he is gentle with his mother, in the ways that he wants to take care of her, in the ways that at the end of the film he takes care of her. It's just in a different presentation. And because it's in a different presentation, it can be seen by other people as not masculine. But Peter knows that it is. Peter knows because he continually asks himself, what kind of man would I be? And I think that's just so powerful. I think the antithesis of this movie, not the antithesis, but like the thesis of this movie is that first line. And when you are lost in the movie and it can feel like we're going in circles, we're talking about nothing, it feels a little bit dragged on. If you aren't able to touch back to that thesis that is not even like, they're not even being subtle about it. They are explicitly telling you it is literally, we're still seeing production companies being put on screen and they demand that you hear this. They demand that you, as the viewer of this movie, know that this is the thesis of this movie. Everything else that you see is predicated on this specific thesis. And so even when Peter isn't on screen for like 2 or 3 acts, that he's gone and then he comes back and then you see what happens when he comes back, all of that, all of the time in between, again, it can feel a little drawn out. It can feel X, Y, and Z, but you have to be presented with it because that helps inform you, the audience, who sees somebody on screen with softer features, with a soft-spoken demeanor, a man with interests that align with art, interests that align with, like, his clothing is not super rugged, like he's all like in the juxtaposition of him being one of the few characters that are always sparkling clean versus most of the other men in there, besides Jesse Plemons' character. Jesse Plemons, I could speak ad nauseum about that. I need to end this and then I can come back. But all of this to say, this was such a lovely exploration of masculinity in the lens of an effeminate character. Because what I said in the beginning still stands. Yes, he might be soft-spoken. Yes, he might have artsy interests. Yes, he might have all of these things that subvert you as the audience because of your societal lens to see him as effeminate. I see him as so determinately masculine. And there's something so fucking beautiful about that his security in his own masculinity, despite his own presentation of it, that's fucking beautiful. That's fucking phenomenal. This movie truly, plates were shifted. This is a movie that I know when I have my own children, I want to have them sit down. And yes, there's a lot of more graphic scenes. There's nudity. There's, cursing. There's whatever. I want to sit down with them and watch this movie with them and then sit down and have a discussion with them about what I took away when I first saw that, especially if I have young boys, because who knows what the future looks like, but I know that some children who grow up with queer parents, they get bullied for it, right? And the question, like, who's the man, who's the woman in the relationship? We're both men. We're both. That's the whole fucking point. I just, I, I'm excited to get more time to think and digest this movie and watch it again, and hopefully show other people, um, because it feels so poignant in a sea of things that feel like they don't necessarily have a lot of nuance to them. This was an unbelievably nuanced film. Performances, 10. Jesse, like, you have made a vocal fan of me. You are really doing your big one. Okay, I gotta get changed. I gotta go to this date. But thank you so much to whoever sees this. I'm gonna be coming back and talking about. I've talked about the queer piece of this movie. I want to talk about the feminist conversation that this movie begins to discuss, if I feel so compelled to, because I also don't want to be a man just talking about I'm a man, talking about feminism. But I think that there was a really interesting conversation that was being had. And I don't know if I'm the one to speak on it, so I at least can say that I spoke about the queer piece. But if I do feel so compelled and I do gather my thoughts, and that is something I will probably write more of a script for, that way I'm able to not, like, I cannot speak about a woman's experience, because I'm not a woman, the way that I can speak about a queer experience. And so I can just kind of hop on and speak about everything, and everything's all connected. That one I would need to write more of a thesis on and write an actual, like, about. But yeah, this was it. Hope you enjoyed. No one's gonna fucking watch this, but holy fucking shit, that movie was fucking phenomenal. Watch it. If you see this and you take anything from this and you watch this whole thing, and maybe you already watched it, rewatch it again. This is your time for a rewatch. If you really just watched it and you were like, I need to hear people talk about blah, 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 just rewatch it again. This is your sign. Rewatch it again. That's it. Okay, goodbye. Oh my God.